Hello everyone, so we're going to talk about the tales of two Ireland. What I mean by that is there's two narratives out there. There's Ireland is the richest country. It supposedly is the second richest country, one of the richest countries in the world, either the second or the third, whichever one you want to argue, but pretty much it has a lot of money. And a lot of people think Ireland's, everybody in Ireland's millionaires. But that's not reality, as you see here. Imagine one of the richest countries in the world on paper. Again, on paper, not in reality. In the minds of economics and etc. It's not. It's only on NGOs sheets, government sheets, and the European Union. Pretty much it's pretty much fraud if you ask me in terms of what the Irish government are doing and presenting. Oh, everybody now has tons of GDP and stuff. Because let's be fair, the government steals half the money off the Irish people. And give it to big corporations and to the European Union. Give it pretty much the Irish people have been robbed by their own government, not to mention in housing and stuff like that. So pretty much the Irish government's a con artist. Pretty much what I'm trying to say in terms of making figures fake. Because in reality, there's nobody in Ireland. Everybody's nearly suffering. The only Irish Joes, the majority of Irish Joes, who are working hard are suffering, while everybody else comes in and pretty much gets everything handed to them, and the NGOs and the government get the majority of the money, and the politicians. So only about 1% of the population has been classed as wealthy, well, let's put it that way. But yeah, so in modern Ireland, imagine in 2025, again, last year the Irish government had 25 billion euro in a surplus that they didn't use. 25 billion euro. Like, there's countries in the world that's their GDP for the whole year. We had 25 billion left over. 25 billion euro. Think about that. All the money that could have went to, pretty much the Irish government decided, let's do nothing about it. And pretty much the money that does go towards public services and stuff, you wonder where the money goes to. But yeah, it is the truth, as it says here. Ireland's supposed to be one of the richest countries in the world with 80,000 per person. That's all nice and well said on paper, but in reality it isn't. The majority of people, when they come home after the week's work, the government takes the majority of the money, and then the landlord comes along, or if you're renting the property of somebody, they come along and take all your money too. And then pretty much everybody comes and robs you, and that's pretty much what happens in this country. So pretty much this country is a scam in terms of saying, oh, it's the richest country, it's one of the richest countries in the world, because it's a load of baloney, if you ask me, because it isn't true. There's 15,000 people homeless. There's tons of people waiting on council houses, not to mention people waiting on hospital lists. The list goes on. We could be here for the next 300 years. But I do think that one of the most devastating things for a country is that we have so many children. The generation that are growing up in 5-year-old, not even born yet, bound for poverty, unfortunately. And these are the next generation of Irish citizens, Irish people. And we're basically living them to what? And that's the nicest possible way to say it. That's what the government are doing. Not the Irish people, it's the government. To house people that are not even from this country. Like, that's the worst thing about it. There's people coming in and we don't know anything about them, but they're getting hotels, etc. It doesn't make any sense, and then they get this, that, and the other. It doesn't make any logic. Let's put it that way. It's not racist, it's not far away. It's just common sense. There's so many young Irish people left on the streets. To what? And not one hate is done about it. And everybody else comes in and gets stuff. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you willingly ignore one group and then look after another group? It doesn't make any sense. And particularly your own citizens. It doesn't make any sense, but logic's gone out the window. As you see here, 45,000 just in 1 year it's risen. It gets worse and worse. Like, it really, really does. And again, I remember seeing the photo during the election on Twitter. The general election just gone by in November. And to be totally honest, anybody who voted Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, you have to hang your heads in shame a bit here. Because I remember seeing a young Irish lad, along with his mother, in a hotel room in emergency accommodation, looking out at a billboard with, our good friend Simon Harris, building a future. And that's a young lad, maybe 5 years old. And his only place he calls home was a hotel room. And that's his future. And Simon Harris has some guff to come along and talk shit. Like, the whole lot of them in the government talk shit, pretty much. Because in reality they're saying, oh, there's so much money. Because in general there is so much money in this country in terms of money, etc. Taxes, what they're taking in. But where's the money going to? Who? God only knows. Because it's not going to help the Irish people. It's going to people that we don't even know. That's the money going to, first of all. And then it's going to Davos, and it's going to Brussels, and it's going to other things. NGOs, is 6 billion a year for NGOs alone. 6 billion. Think of that. That could go to some queer use. we could literally end child poverty overnight if we took that 6 billion of NGOs and just said we look after the young people. But again, there's no will in this country to do anything, because the politicians don't give a shit. So, like, that's just plain simple. Because there would have been something done if the politicians cared. But again, as it says here, spiraling wet is just, like, even if you're getting a good salary in Ireland, and I know people who get good salaries, the majority of it's spent on rent. Like, I know a person that's getting nearly 3,000 a week, and the majority of it's going to rent, and it's going to electricity, and pretty much at the end of the week, it's nothing but 2 pennies to rub together. But that's how bad it is in this country. It's an awful country in terms of that. But it is delusions. Like, it is delusions. I often hear people coming here, Americans and stuff like that, saying, "Oh, this is one of the richest countries in the world," and then they look around and they're like, "Oh," that explains it. When you come here and then you kind of look around, you're like, it's like a third world country. People begging on the streets, etc., and people waiting for houses, homeless. We could write the book on it, unfortunately. But again, it's an awful state of affairs. But again, it's all kind of inflated numbers. It's all con out this game, if you ask me, because it's not in reality. It's all just kind of make believe. In reality, it kind of is with all the big corporations here, but they're making huge. The corporations are benefiting more than the state. But in reality, in theory, on paper, it's a fact. But in reality, it's not. It's just make-believe stuff, pretty much, if you ask me. And the majority of Irish people, you ask Irish people, like, why is all Irish people having to go to Australia when we're supposed to be one of the richest countries in the world? It doesn't make any sense, but the logic proceeds, isn't it right? But anyway, let me know what you think, subscribe for more. And unfortunately, again, we'd be here in a year's time, and it'd be 200,000. God only knows, 300,000. But again, what I'm trying to say is it's just going to keep going. There's no way really stopping it, unfortunately. Because this government that's here for the next few years, and they don't really care about the Irish people, and this is only going to increase, unfortunately. And that's the sad thing to say, and it's very sad to say, because nothing really is going to change, because they've been saying for years, oh, no child should go hungry and should be left on the floor of a hotel room or on the streets. And many Taoiseachs, remember Leo Varadkar saying it, we end child poverty. We're still here. So anyway, it's a sad world.